What is going on, everybody? It is your boy Baddog back with another New York Giants video. Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it. Really quick note, I'll be live on Louis T's channel tonight for an NFC East roundtable with myself, Lord Brunson, Louis T, and Law Nation. It'll be fun. Hopefully you guys and girls can come by there, check it out. Represent our crappy G-men. Lord knows I'm going to take a beating for that team because all three of the other teams in the division are competing for a playoff spot and we're competing for a better draft pick. That's usually how it goes here in New York. But guess what? I'm not the only one that is aggravated with the New York Giants, and I know that I'm in the majority when, I come on here and bash the New York Giants and let them have it and tell them how disappointed I am in them, and I know a lot of fans feel the same way, but I've said this before. It's not just me, and my words mean nothing. I'm a fan. Who cares, right? But I know that in the grand scheme of things, I know the owner and the players and the GM, I know they hear the noise on social media. But again, it really doesn't mean anything coming from a fan. It should. We're the whole reason that those guys have what they have. We're the whole reason they eat. We're the whole reason that they have the money they have, and everything that they have is due to us, the fans, because we pay that. So it means a little coming from us. But when it comes from a former Giant player, it holds some weight. Now, Strahan said he'd been disappointed. Amani Toomer came out and said something. Lawrence Taylor said he doesn't watch it since Eli left. I know LT's just messing around because last year I did a video on it. LT said that the Giants had no identity. Now it's Carl Banks, and I've always loved Carl Banks. And Carl Banks is a legendary New York Giant. Probably most underrated linebacker on the Giants, borderline Hall of Famer. Huge cog in the 86 championship. He was the best player on the field during the playoffs in 1986. He was unbelievable. Well, he had a lot to say. Now, I'm not going to go through everything he says because this is long, but I'm going to quote what he says here. He says, "My wish," and I'm not telling the fans, I'm telling the player, coaches, figure it the blank out, is what he said. He said, simple. When there are plays to be made, make the effing play. Be intentional about your assignment. Value every possession like you won't get another one because you don't when you don't execute. Just know the assignment. It's pretty simple, right? Then he goes on to criticize Joe Judge, calling the loss one of my lowest moments as a former Giant, as a fan, and as a broadcaster. He criticized the team's disorganization ahead of the snap and its failure to get the ball to its best offensive players. He was particularly critical of Saquon Barkley. Oh, that's right. He said, it's now at the point where it's going to be labeled inconsistent from you. He's got to be able to make those plays. Obviously, Barkley dropped two crucial passes in the game as well. And then he says, he goes on to talk about Joe Judge. When he says the team needs to be better, he says occasionally he's got a lot to, operationally he's got a lot to fix. These delayed game calls, the planning of how to operate in certain situations, it just seems they miss it every week. The Giants' entire operation is broken. So, like I said, people come on here and they want to bash me and say, oh, you're not a fan. Why do you care? Yeah, I do care because I am a fan. Why do you get all worked up about it? Well, again, it means nothing coming from me, maybe. But obviously, when former Giants are this upset about it, I feel pretty good. I feel like I'm in good company of the way I feel about this team and the way this team has been run and the way this team has been coached and the players' inability to make plays. Because Carl Banks is right. How many times are you going to sit here and, hey, Joe Judge, man. Hey. I can't hear anything, man. I got to go look at the tape. I can't hear. I need a timeout. In all seriousness, man, how many weeks does it take you to understand how fast to get the play in? Why is the play clock always running down for us? Why does he always need to take these timeouts? Stop with the damn headsets, man. You can have sandwich boards. You can have hand signals. There's so many ways to get around not using a headset to get the play in. Again, this all goes back to the way this organization is run from top to bottom. It is broken. It's broken Carl Banks. This is a third guy this year. Again, we're not talking about, I'm trying to think of somebody. Even Kurt Warner. Kurt Warner criticized Daniel Jones a little bit. Peyton Manning mentioned Daniel Jones one read. You keep staring that way, the linebackers inevitably going to come over there and knock the pass away. There's been a lot of criticism from former players. But again, this is the third legendary New York Giant. coming in here now. It's not like it's Ron Dixon or Tim Carter, like somebody that played there that you may not know. It's not like it's Jared Bunch or Derek Brown talking about the Giants. We're talking about Lawrence Taylor, Monty Toomer, Michael Strahan. Those are three pretty damn good Giants. All three of them have said the same thing. They've been incredibly critical of the New York Giants. And this is why I love Carl Banks, okay? Because in the media, and even on YouTube, there's a lot of fans, there's a lot of media. They sugarcoat all the negativity. They sugarcoat all the bad things that this team does. Well, he's got potential. Well, maybe if he had an offensive line. Well, maybe if this happened. We can't give up on him yet. We did a lot of good things out there. I was very satisfied with our performance. All of this, Carl Banks don't hold back. Fix it, is what he says. Just fix it. Sounds like me every week, don't it? Fix it. Figure it out. You're the coach of the Giants, you're the players. Make the plays. Get the plays in on time. And execute. How is this so difficult? Why is it so hard for the Giants to complete a 3-yard pass? Why is it so hard for us to execute a screen? Have you seen our screen passes? Let's loft it out there to Saquon Barkley. No lead blockers. And inevitably the play goes for 2 yards. Or -2. Why is it so difficult? The entire organization has been disgraced. And this team has been bad for years. There is a problem. So we have been bad pretty much since 2013. Outside of 2016, we're 11-5. Again, I've talked about how we had a very weak schedule. We won a lot of those games by 7 points or less. We got murdered by better teams that year. Pittsburgh killed us. Green Bay killed us. I forgot who else we played that year. We got beat up pretty bad. But you've seen the other teams in this division have success. Now, outside of the Eagles, nobody's won a Super Bowl since in this division who's won a Super Bowl since the Giants. But the Cowboys, they haven't been really bad per se. They haven't been great. They've had a couple really good years. But even when they were at their lowest, the 2 years that they were bad was because Romo missed a whole season and Dak Prescott missed most of last season. But other than that, they were kind of treading water. They were 8-8, but they were never terrible. Washington, I still don't know what Washington is. Washington is just, they're not really good. They're not really bad. I don't really know what Washington is. Washington's just kind of flatlined. They don't excite you, but they're winning games, and they won this division last year. No matter how bad it was, they won the division. And the Eagles last year, 4-11 this year. They won 6 games already. They have a very easy schedule going forward, and they flipped everything around, and they're set up for the future. All of this is going on around the New York Giants, and yet here we are, 21-54 or whatever it is, 22-54 in the last 76 games, something ridiculously poor like that. We have had different GMs, different coaches, different coordinators, different quarterbacks, different players, receivers, you name it. We've had a ton of draft picks, and yet year in and year out, it is the same story. Just nothing but disappointment and anguish here with no signs of a good future. When Carl Banks comes out after last Sunday and says this is the lowest he's felt as a former player, that tells you all you need to know about what this organization has become. Because this organization hasn't been good in years. And this was the breaking point for Carl Banks against the Miami Dolphins with a backup quarterback in there. So that tells you all you need to know about what the New York Giants organization is. And like I said, when I say something, who cares? This guy's a nobody. He's a guy on YouTube. Yeah, anybody can have a YouTube channel. That's a fact. Anybody can come on here, put their camera on and talk. Anybody can do that, But when it comes from a guy that played in the NFL, that won 2 Super Bowls in the NFL, that was a Pro Bowl player, that was one of the best Giants linebackers in their history. When it comes from Michael Strahan, their best defensive end of all time in the New York Giants. When it comes from Monty Toomer, a guy that was one of their better receivers and still holds some receiving records with the Giants. When it comes from guys like that, I'm hoping that the organization is listening and you don't need to take what I say to heart or what Chris says to heart or what Tim says to heart or any Giants video maker or any Giants fan that posts on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook or wherever they're posting and stuff. You don't need to listen to us. You take our words with a grain of salt. But when it comes from Carl Banks, Monty Toomer, Michael Strahan, maybe, just maybe, those voices are loud enough for the organization to hear, and maybe we'll see a change because I don't know what it's going to take to turn this organization around. But I just wanted to give my thoughts on that. I loved Carl Banks anyway because I've listened to Carl Banks call the games on radio with Bob Papa, and Carl Banks never held back anyway. He'll tell you when a play is bad on the field. He'll tell you when a quarterback makes a bad throw. Supposedly, he's called Danny Dimes Danny Donations, which tells you all you need to know about that. He obviously has a problem with Daniel Jones' turnover issue. So he calls him Danny Donation. Carl Banks has no problem ripping the organization or saying exactly what he feels without having to sugarcoat it. And this just made me respect him even that much more. There's a lot of talk about people saying Carl Banks maybe should be the GM of the New York Giants. I don't know much about what Carl Banks could do as a GM, but something like that, the way he feels, the passion that he has for the Giants, to me, he might make a good GM candidate because obviously this guy wants this organization to turn it around, and maybe he could figure out how to do it because Lord knows Reese and Gettleman haven't done it in 10 years. So all I got in this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you haven't done so, please like, please subscribe, and come on over to Louis T's channel late 30 tonight when I represent the New York Football Giants in the NFC Roundtable. Hope to see you there. Bad Diggy Dizzle, gone. Peace.